What's going on, YouTube? It's McLean's Man Cave coming back at you with week one analysis of college football season starting back up. I guess technically it's week two, but this is the first week that almost all the teams really played. But I'm loving it. My Penn State Nittany Lions, they fought and they really won that game against Wisconsin. I'm very proud of them. I'm really excited. It's gonna be a great week. I'm sorry if you're a Wisconsin fan. You win some, you lose some. Hopefully you guys will win the next game in your season. But my Penn State boys, that's an ESPN classic. I gotta tell you, that was amazing game. But enough about Penn State, because this is not a channel just about Penn State. This is all of college football, right? So let's just talk about the Thursday games. A lot of people kind of forgot what happened on Thursday. Ohio State beats Minnesota 45-31. This is the first game without Justin Fields. A lot of Ohio State, they lost a lot of key players, but this is a good test for the new players. First game on the road against a very hostile environment. Minnesota, great team. It's up and coming. PJ Fleck is really elevating this program. And it was a hard-fought battle. Minnesota was kind of taking the lead at some points and this and that. But, I think Ohio State really kind of showed their athleticism, their strength, their resilience. And they kind of pulled away, pretty significantly. So by two scores, which was actually the line. I believe the line for the spread was 14.5. They won by 14. So they Vegas hit it right on the dot right there. Kind of moving on. So Ohio State gets a good win right there on the road for their first game. Let's talk about an upset really quick. Virginia Tech and UNC. So, there was some high hopes with Mac Brown bringing UNC football to hopefully, be possible contenders for the ACC with Clemson. You got Sam Howell, and he's an excellent quarterback. But again, first game on the road, it's not where you want to be against a tough environment. Virginia Tech, they're always, they're a good team. I don't know if I would say that they're contenders for the ACC championship, but they're definitely a great team. So it's kind of like, UNC was kind of in the same boat as like Penn State and Ohio State this week, kind of going on the road against a tough opponent. But unfortunately, they weren't able to stick it out, and they lose their first game 17-10, but they can still bounce back, and we'll see what happens next week. But this is an excellent win for Virginia Tech. Hopefully this will bring some momentum going into the next game. Let's go. Let's see what else other big games that happened this week that we can talk about. There was a lot, so I'm not going to be able to speak on all of this because this video is not going to be an hour long. Just a quick recap. But how about Michigan State beating Northwestern? Now, Pat Fitzgerald and his team, in the past few years, they have been showing pretty much, good consistency. I believe last year they beat Wisconsin. So, they always have a lot of key wins. They can never just get that extra step to be like contenders for Big Ten championship and things like that. I think they went to the Big Ten championship a few years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they didn't win it. So again, Northwestern, excellent team, excellent defense. They have a great coach. Michigan State, there was a lot of question marks coming into this game. After Mark Antonio left, there was a lot of questions about, recruiting and, the coaching and coordinators and everything like that. New team. And they came out fighting. 38-21, Michigan State Spartans takes the W home. So that's definitely a big, they might, we'll see how Michigan State plays in the Big Ten East if they prove to be another big contender in the Big Ten. Moving on to another upset. Charlotte defeats Duke 31-28. Now, I'm going to be frank with you. I don't really follow Charlotte that much. Definitely Duke was favored to win, and it just didn't happen that way. Another tough loss for Duke, for the first game of the season. But, hopefully, games like this really kind of show your mental fortitude, being able to bounce back after a hard loss and kind of moving on into the next game. So, great win for Charlotte. Duke, you're still in this. You just gotta fight a little bit more next week. Let's just take a look. Who does Duke have next week? Duke is playing North Carolina A&T. So that definitely, hopefully Duke can take advantage and get a win, one in the win column next week. All right, moving on. Let's see what's another. How about Nebraska and Fordham? So, Nebraska was dealt a harsh loss against Illinois in their first week last week, and coming into this week, it's their first home game. Fordham is not very known for their football program, except for Joe Moorhead, who was at Fordham, became offensive coordinator for Penn State a few years ago, and that was the year, my senior year, where we won the Big Ten championship. So so Fordham's still in there. And the first quarter, I believe it was 7-7 at one point. Fordham was kind of hanging in there, but Nebraska clearly, you deserve to win. You were favored to win. And this is kind of that resiliency I talk about. After a hard loss, you need to be able to just win the games you're supposed to win and move on. So that's a great win for Nebraska. Especially to home game, bringing the community together. So excellent win right there. We already talked about Penn State, Wisconsin. Two excellent teams, two excellent defenses. There was a lot of questions about Penn State's offense, especially with the new offensive coordinator coming in, because they've been, kind of a new offensive coordinator every year after Joe Moorhead left to become head coach of Mississippi State. Now I'm blanking on the offensive coordinator last year, but he ended up getting fired, and now we have Yurcich, I believe. I'm pronouncing that name wrong, I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of questions going on about that. Sean Clifford, experienced quarterback. But he didn't have the best season last year. But second half really showed explosive plays, won the battle, and Penn State goes on to Ball State next week, home game for Ball State. So I think Penn State's definitely on the up and up. Wisconsin, you're definitely not out of it. Next game I believe is Eastern Michigan, something like that, and I'm sure that they won't have any problem with that. Oklahoma. All right, this one actually surprised me. There was a lot of talk with this new defensive coordinator. I don't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but new defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. They were really putting the emphasis on defense for Oklahoma because they have an excellent offense, excellent program, well respected. However, it's almost like kind of the same thing with like Notre Dame, except similar but different, where they have an excellent season. They go to the playoff, and they just can't compete with Alabama, the elite programs out there. Kind of opposite with Notre Dame. So Notre Dame kind of has maybe the better defense, and the offense is a little bit more stagnant. Oklahoma's the opposite, where they have an electric offense, and defense is kind of it's not there. So I was expecting a lot hearing about this new defensive coordinator, a lot of the recruiting. I thought, Tulane, I thought they wouldn't really have a problem with Tulane. Tulane definitely stuck in there for a decent part of the game. Oklahoma started pulling away, and then Oklahoma ends up closing it out 40-35. But again, when you're playing the Alabamas, the Georgias, Ohio State, these big these elite programs, you can't let people score 35 on you. It can't happen. So hopefully, it's the first game getting the rust off, and hopefully they pick it up from here. So Oklahoma wins game 1. Moving on to Michigan. Michigan 47 over Western Michigan 14. Now, a lot of people are saying, did Michigan finally find their quarterback? I think it's a little too soon to say. But because we've always been in this boat before where Michigan kind of wins their first few games pretty convincingly, and then they lose the big games. They haven't beaten Ohio State in God knows how long. So that rivalry is almost like fizzling out unless Michigan kind of make some moves. So is this the year that Michigan actually beats Ohio State? We'll soon find out. But hopefully this win for Michigan will just propel them to move forward right into the next game, which should be, let's see, who are they playing? They are playing Washington. My picks and predictions for week 2 will be later in the week, but I think Michigan should handle Washington pretty well after Washington's disappointing loss. I believe Washington did lose. Moving on, Rutgers. How about Rutgers? Now, me being a Jersey boy, I loved Rutgers growing up. When I was younger, Greg Schiano was the head coach, and Rutgers was excellent. That win, I think, in triple overtime against Louisville. I think I was in 6th grade at the time. It was amazing. And then after Greg Schiano left, Rutgers just couldn't find their head coach, and the recruiting was a big problem. Then in 2014, my sophomore year in undergrad at Penn State, Rutgers and Maryland joined the Big Ten. Now, this is a little bit of controversial topic, but I technically think that Rutgers and Maryland kind of belong in the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference. Geographically, kind of makes a little bit more sense. I feel like if Rutgers and Maryland were in the ACC, they would definitely be better contenders. They would have, a lot more wins, and their recruiting would definitely be a lot better because they can pipeline all these great players from the East Coast. However, once they moved into the Big Ten, Rutgers especially was struggling hard. It was hard for them to find, just 4 wins a season was a tough. A Big Ten win was hard, just hard off the bat. So Rutgers fans have been definitely searching for answers, and Greg Schiano is back, and back in a big way. Rutgers beats Temple 61-14. Now, I didn't think Greg Schiano was just going to walk in here and magically just make this program, amazing. But hey, look at that, 61-14. So we'll see what happens with Rutgers in the Big Ten East. Are they truly back? I think they're definitely, if they're on this path, I think they're at least bowl contenders this year. Moving on to Oregon, Fresno State. Now, Fresno State was really hanging in there towards the end. Oregon wins 31-24. Now, Fresno State, a lot of people are going to say, Oregon, you should have blown out Fresno State. Listen, for Fresno State, I think is very underrated. To me, they're almost like a Buffalo. Buffalo is an excellent program that everyone kind of forgets. And then, Buffalo always just comes in and kind of gives, good teams a run for their money, or sometimes even wins. And I think that's what Fresno State is like. It's just Fresno State doesn't play as many Power 5 games as Buffalo. I might be wrong, but I think that was a good win for Oregon. Getting some of the rust off. Fresno State, I think, is a very reputable program. And we'll see going into, next week where Oregon, I believe, plays Ohio State. That's definitely going to be a big, big test. All right, moving on. Cincinnati beats Miami of Ohio 49-14. No surprises there. Definitely thought that they deserved it. Iowa beating Indiana 34-6. That's big. I think, Iowa was always there. It's always, right there, contending in the Big Ten West. Indiana definitely, Tom Allen definitely bringing that program up. And Iowa winning this game is definitely a statement. Iowa's always had an excellent defense, but 34 points. Is this showing us that their offense is back this year? And I think yes. I think Iowa is just on the up and up right now. But too many question marks right now. But we'll see coming up into the next few weeks. Now with Indiana, I still think they're it's a tough loss, but away. It's very hard to play in Kinnick Stadium. As a Penn State fan, I know that game in, 2017, 2018, where we won in the last second. That just had me off my seat. I dread playing games at Kinnick Stadium. So, tough loss, Indiana. Hopefully you'll be able to pick it up next time. I'm not going to get into it, but, like that win last year against Penn State, I'm not really the biggest Indiana fan right now because he was out of bounds on that 2-point conversion. Penn State should have won that game, first game of the season last year. But I digress. Moving on, Maryland, West Virginia. I think these were two very evenly matched opponents. Maryland wins 30-24. Maryland's definitely, Mike Locksley really bringing up this program as well. And now with the addition of Tulia Tagovailoa, Tua's younger brother, I think he's really making a name for himself at this program, and it might even attract more talent in the coming years to Maryland. So excellent win for Maryland. And now moving on to Alabama, Miami. I mean, a lot of people are saying, Mac Jones and Alabama lost a lot of players. Miami always has high expectations coming into the season, but to me, this was no surprise. I knew that Alabama was just going to reload, and Alabama took care of business, 44-13 against Miami. To me, that Alabama is just going to roll until there's an actual team that can actually compete with them, and Miami I do not think was the team. Let's see, moving on, Pittsburgh beats UMass 51-7, kind of a blowout. You kind of expected UMass, usually not the best program these days, but moving on, let's see, Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech. I didn't watch this game, but I was kind of following it, and I was very surprised that Louisiana Tech, very great program, gave Mississippi State a run for their money. Mississippi State, hopefully this kind of gives you a wake-up call that you can't take any games for granted. You can't. Mississippi State, you got the win, but you gotta work a little bit harder than that. Same with Iowa State. I mean, Northern Iowa, I don't think they're the best program. Iowa State escapes with a win, 16-10. I think the next week Iowa State plays rival Iowa, and if they're playing like that, I don't know if they're going to be able to play against Iowa. So we'll see what happens there. Texas beating Louisiana 38-18. Excellent win for Texas. All right, and let's just keep going. I know there's a lot of games. I'm sorry if I skip over some of them, but it's just too many games. And first few weeks, no bye weeks. But let's just talk about some of the big ones here. Virginia, big win, 43-0. So that's good for them. Florida, I think I wasn't really impressed. A 35-14 against Florida Atlantic. I just think that, these are games that you need to win, let's say, convincingly. And 35-14, I mean, to me, Florida's going to need to do a little bit more than that, because 2 weeks they play Alabama, and they're really going to have to get ready for that game coming up. All right, how about the biggest game of the week, Georgia and Clemson? Now, I actually thought that Georgia was going to win this game. I knew it was going to be a hard-fought game. I didn't know what the score was going to be like, but Georgia dogs take it 10-3 against the Tigers. I think that Clemson is this type of program, and, all respect to Clemson, they're an excellent program. But, in my opinion, I know I'm going to, get some hate on this, but, Clemson, they're in the ACC. So right now, some of these schools in the ACC, they're not top contenders in the country right now. So, when Clemson goes undefeated in the season, that's not really saying much. When they win the ACC, it's kind of just like, okay, great. You beat Duke, you beat Boston College, you beat Wake Forest. These schools. I mean, Virginia, they're just Miami. I mean, they're just right there, but they're not there. So when Clemson goes undefeated like this, I mean, last year, the years before, they were excellent, competing, but I just don't think they were able to reload their roster like these other top programs like Alabama, Ohio State. So it might take a little bit of a while. Maybe, I'm not saying they're going to have a losing season or anything like that. I'm just saying that just to get back to that national spotlight, it might take a few more years just to get that personnel back, because they did lose a lot of players. So Georgia, great win. Moving into the SEC, we'll definitely see if they're definitely contenders, if they can, beat Alabama. And I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm just Just throwing it out there. All right, this video is almost 20 minutes long, so let's kind of just get to the end of it here. Washington, disappointing loss to Montana, 13-7. I mean, the Pac-12 has not been very reputable these past few years. Washington's definitely going on the downslope. I remember when they were a few years ago, they were, winning the Pac-12. They were in the playoff. Now they're losing to Montana. These are things that can't happen. But on the flip side, on the Pac-12, UCLA is back, and Chip Kelly, I think, this is the year that he's got the personnel that he wants. Just how I was talking about Clemson, sometimes you have those off years, you don't have the personnel. UCLA is back. They beat LSU 38-27. UCLA, I think, might be a contender for the Pac-12 this year. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. When I was a kid, UCLA was always an excellent program. They kind of fell off in my teenage years. And it's one of those like blue blood programs that you just want to like. So I'm glad that they're back. It's a little bit of West Coast representation. Very happy with UCLA winning against LSU. LSU, excellent program. I love Coach O. Tough loss, but they lost a lot of players, and now it's might just be another rebuilding year. But we'll see how that moves on. And yeah, finally. And then Eastern Tennessee State defeats Vanderbilt 23-3. I mean, Vandy, that can't happen. You're an SEC school. You gotta act like it. I mean, we'll see what happens. Let's see who Vanderbilt's next game is. But Colorado State, okay, but you can't lose to Eastern Tennessee State. I'm sorry. You're an SEC. Supposedly, SEC, to many people, are the best conference in the country. The best conference in the country cannot lose to Eastern Tennessee State. And moving on, let's just close out with a few more West Coast schools. Hawaii, no one really talks about Hawaii much, but they are always a great program. They win against Portland State 49-35, so that's great for them. And Utah State beating Washington State 26-23. Some of these games I haven't been able to review the highlights, but I'm just giving you some of the scores. And those are just some of the big games that happened this past Saturday. I'm filming this on a Sunday, so I do not know who wins Notre Dame, Florida State. I'll give my prediction for that. I am a Notre Dame fan. Grew up a Notre Dame fan as well as Penn State. A lot of people are going to say, how are you a Penn State fan and Notre Dame fan? Long story. I like both of them. I love Florida State too, but I think that Notre Dame wins this game, I'll say by 10 points. I'll say it will be a little bit of a rusty Jack Cohn coming into Notre Dame, and he's just going to need to find his rhythm. Might take a little bit of a while. Florida State's going to hang in there, but Notre Dame has the personnel to pull away. I say Notre Dame wins it. I'm going to say 28-17, something like that. I'm going to say something like that. 11 points. So that's my pick for that. And then Monday, we have Ole Miss and Louisville. That's a tough one. I'm going to go Ole Miss on this one. Again, this is going to be a hard-fought battle, I think. But I think Ole Miss pulls away. I'm going to say 28-24. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. I know I'm going to go into this week with good vibes. Penn State, my boys, 1-0. That was an excellent win. And I hope your teams won as well. And if you like this video, please consider liking the button. And please consider subscribing to the channel, McLean's Man Cave, to listen to all picks and predictions and analysis. College football, we got 6-scale figures, we got anime talk, we got Star Wars talk, we got all this talk. So if you want to join the Man Cave, come and listen on. The videos will come when I can. I'm still my 4th year of medical school, so we'll see how that goes. But for now, we'll see what happens in the next week of college football. So see you later. Take care.